It's about time to convene and get started tonight, 7 o'clock. And let's start with a moment of silence and reflection, please. Thank you very much. And we'll officially call the meeting to order, the regular monthly meeting of the town of Holden Beach, and officially give you a welcome. I don't see any faces that haven't been here before. Anybody not been here before? So everybody knows where everything's in the back. And again, welcome to all of you, and turn to number 3, Pledge of Allegiance to the flag on my right, and stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 4, consideration of the agenda being approved. Any motions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move that we move item number 6 to after number 9, which allows us to do the legal aspects with the lawyers and not have to pay our current lawyer any longer than we have to, so he can do his thing and leave. I also move that we move item number 12, the police report, to follow the town manager's report at 23, and delete number 11.
Sorry I'm so slow.
That's okay, sir.
All right, we're moving 6 to after 9.
To after 9, just after the attorneys.
All right,
And 12 to after the town manager's report, item 23.
23.
And delete number 11, which has to do with police staffing, in the interest of providing the town manager more time to talk about more significant issues right now.
12 after 23. And what was the last one?
Delete number 11.
Delete number 11. Everybody understand what the motion is? You ready to vote?
Yep.
Discuss?
I have a,
Have we got a second?
Let's do this one first.
okay, I have a second.
Okay, discussion? There's no discussion?
No discussion.
All right, so you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. The agenda is approved.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. What, I thought we were just voting on his,
We just voted on those 3.
on those 3. I move that we revise the proposed agenda by deferring item.
Okay, hold it, we got an order problem. We had a motion and a second. That motion's on the table. So you can't have more than one motion on the table at a time.
Didn't we
My,
vote? didn't
my,
we vote
my
those 3
question was, what
changes?
were we voting on? Not the approval of the agenda, but the approval of the changes.
Of those 3 changes only.
Okay,
Otherwise, he needs to add those 2 changes as well.
okay, you want to add to his motion? Or change his motion?
If that's necessary.
I want to make a revision of the proposed agenda as well.
Okay, state it, and then the motion maker and the second person has to agree to that, but go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to revise the proposed agenda by moving items 15 and 16, the current items 15 and 16. I'd like to defer them until the next town meeting. There are legal issues that I would like to have the town attorney review and get their input into those items.
I'd like to have a discussion on the noise ordinance, though, as part of our meeting. And if you want to postpone that till later, that's fine, but I think we need to, there are some problems with our noise ordinance that I think we need to discuss.
Okay. Time out, I got to keep up with this somehow. We got to,
I'm okay with
Well-
these 2 changes.
okay, and who seconded the first time around? You,
I seconded it.
you agree to that. Now, you want to,
If we're gonna take that out about reviewing the planning board's recommendations on the noise ordinance, then I think we need to have a discussion on the noise ordinance in general.
okay, is that listed anywhere that you're referring to?
No, but I was gonna cover it as part of the number 15.
Okay,
Is that regarding commercial property?
No,
okay, so your concern is.
there's no
removing it,
discussion.
it'll be-
Moving it all together leaves no place for discussion on potential problems with the noise ordinance.
Is that,
How do we do that with
Um,
moving items and that, and then having one that completely separate issue?
Okay, I believe we're gonna have to,
Do them separately?
we've got it all the way down to his part. So you either vote on the whole thing, or you can vote on, down to his part and then vote on his.
Let's do
item.
that.
I'd like to vote on
Let's
it.
do that.
Down to his
For
part.
my part.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody understand, we're gonna come back and vote on yours.
Okay.
Separately. But with the changes from over here on my left, if you're in favor of those changes, the agenda, say aye.
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 If you're opposed, say no. All right, so those changes are approved. Now, Mr. Kaiser, your
I'd like to put
proposed change.
a general discussion about the noise ordinance.
There is one problem with that, it's a special
It's not an
meeting.
advert.
It was a special meeting, so we could only discuss what was actually on the agenda instead of adding like we would for a regular meeting.
Okay, but the noise ordinance is on the agenda.
It was until we just removed it. That's the reason I said I wanted to keep something in there about the noise ordinance.
Well, it appears we're discussing this, so, Mr. Kaiser, if I could ask you, it was my understanding the reason we were deferring was we were going to seek legal counsel to address a number of questions, one of which was the inclusion or not of commercial property, the mixed-use aspects, and others. So
The only reason I want to discuss it now is the longer we delay sending it back to P and Z to start looking at it, the longer it is before we get an ordinance that really works. And the problem I see right now is the noise ordinance, you don't have a noise disturbance unless you have amplified sound, you have someone playing a musical instrument, or you have a gathering or assembly of 10 or more people. So if you have less than 10 people, you can make all the noise in the world, and you're not having a noise violation.
Okay.
I'd-
We can't discuss.
Yeah, we're
that.
not yet.
We got to get it on the agenda before we.
Right, thank you.
I understand what your points are, but we're gonna have to, we need to vote on whether it's gonna be allowed on the agenda or not, as I see it. Does anybody see it different?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so the question now is to leave the discussion as noted in number 15, leave the discussion of the noise ordinance in place.
But Mr. Mayor, haven't we
No.
already eliminated that?
Well, you have eliminated, if you're eliminating all of it,
Yes.
Yes.
the planning and zoning part, as well as any, you don't want to talk about it, do you?
Correct.
Well, anyway, we need a second. If you don't get a second, you don't get to vote on it anyway. Is there a
Okay.
second? Okay. No noise ordinance discussion tonight. So, number 15 and 16 are off totally, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Are we through with number 4? No more consideration of additions, deletions, or any changes? All right. Got to go to number 5, consideration of approval of minutes, January 12 meeting. Is there a motion?
move to be approved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor, about the minutes,
All right.
if I might. Mr. Hewitt, you had stated last meeting that you plan to bring a resolution to the board at our meeting
to adopt the maps whenever FEMA approves them. Do we have are you going to speak to that later? Okay, thank you. Also, there's a mention of a sanitary sewer vulnerability advisory committee was supposed to report back in February, but our minutes show that we'd like to push that date to March. So has that action been taken to place it on the March agenda? This is under item A, amend the date. P and Z is to report to the board on the sanitary sewer vulnerability advisory committee from February to March. I didn't see where there was an action to add that to the agenda.
In March?
Correct.
We haven't put it together.
Haven't put it together yet. It will show up.
Okay. All right, so I'm just referring to what's stated in the minutes. I just want to make sure we've got a hook for that advisory committee to report back at some date. Okay, I'll take that action then to add it to the March agenda if the committee is in place and they're ready. All right.
Okay, any more discussion on those minutes? As presented. All in favor of approving those as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, now, the January 12th regular meeting minutes. Motion approved.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, if I get these things out of order, y'all just yell at me. I'm trying here. Number 6, we moved down, so that puts us to number 7, presentation. And I guess John asked you, I don't know who or what or anything about it.
Our interim attorney's coming to the table now.
Well,
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Trask. For those of you who don't know me, I work with the firm of Ward & Smith in Wilmington. My firm and I have had the honor of serving as your interim town attorney since early December. We were originally engaged with the notion that we would serve in an interim capacity and that ultimately the board would select a more permanent town attorney. Commissioners Eisenhower and Fletcher served on a nominating committee to seek out candidates and to learn about them, to gather information about them. They have interviewed and investigated multiple viable candidates, and in a moment, the board is going to go into executive session, as you see on your agenda, to discuss those various candidates. If the board agrees on a nominee for that position, then the board is going to have an opportunity to make this transition from an interim attorney to a more permanent attorney happen tonight. If that happens, I just want to say to you, Mr. Mayor, to the board, and to all you citizens that both I and my firm have really appreciated the opportunity to work for you guys. It's been a pleasure. We've gotten to work with some fantastic folks, both who are involved with the town and some citizens, and it certainly has been a pleasure. And so, thank you.
thank you, sir. Is there anything else?
Nope.
No, not on that one.
All right, number 8. John, is that you?
Is it, yeah,
Yeah,
just.
call it,
we just moved to
move
executive
that we
session.
go into executive session with the attorney, with the,
Board.
Discuss,
We
to discuss the attorney.
Can I read it? We just have to actually
Yes,
read out
ma'am.
the
Gotcha.
actual motion. Okay. Executive session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, condition of appointment of a public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee.
Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I
So
move that we
moved.
do.
Have a motion over here, am I right?
Second.
Second on the left. No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. We're going into executive session. You people are welcome to stay and enjoy your own company. We'll be back, I hope. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your indulgence. well, we were in executive session, and I believe where we are is we have finished executive session, and are we now
Number 9.
number 9? Is that right?
Yep.
John, you wanna, or,
Yeah.
because I don't know. Who had it?
I can do it. I'd like to make a motion that we terminate our interim attorney contract with Warden Smith and Alan Trask. And I would like for us to hire as our new town attorney, Noel Fox. Before we get to a second, I'd just like to take the opportunity to say that John Fletcher and I interviewed numerous attorneys from the area. We tried as much as possible to do phone interviews and interviews here and try to find the best person for the future of Holden Beach. And I think we have done that with Noel Fox. She is the town attorney for Carolina Beach. She has extensive municipal background, law. She is also the attorney for the Cape Fear Public Transportation in Wilmington. Her parents own a home at Holden Beach, so she's been here for many, many years. She has ties to us and loves this place as much as many of us do that are sitting here. She is very impressive, and I am glad tonight to be able to say that we have found what I believe to be the perfect attorney for us for a bright future. So that's my motion. You don't have to put all that in there.
Second?
Motion and second. The floor is now open for discussion. Well, would you like, somebody like to introduce the person to the crowd here?
Where is she?
Oh, there she is.
There we go. That's who we're talking about.
See her?
If there's no discussion, are you ready to vote?
I think so, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. Number 10, John?
We're going to do the public comment section,
6.
Mr. Mayor.
We're gonna do public
We
comments.
relocated that.
All right, public comments on agenda items. Anybody wanting to speak to anything on the agenda as amended? Okay, thank you, sir. New attorney lady, where are you? Would you like to sit back there and not get paid, or you want to come up here and sit and get paid?
Happy to join.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Okay, anybody want to speak? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Dixon?
Am I the only one?
Who knows?
I don't know. Okay, I'm Rhonda Dixon, and the item I want to speak to is number 21, and it was actually part of the staff report, and I think, David, you and Alan maybe went to a meeting with the Corps of Engineers, or...
Christie and I.
Okay, so there was a meeting with the Corps of Engineers and the Division of Coastal Management. We had asked at the last meeting, several of the commissioners and homeowners had asked that there be an open forum for the homeowners of Holden Beach to be able to ask questions and get answers to terminal groin issues and a lot of the uncertainty. And so the letter that was in the package said basically that that was brought up at the meeting, and the answer was, you know, we don't want to do that at this point in the process. So I would just like to make the comment that I understand that the Corps of Engineers and Division of Coastal Management, they have a very specific process that they have to follow, but our consultant, ATM, and Dial Cordy, the people that we are paying, I think at the last meeting it came out between $400,000 and $500,000. I would think that they would be willing to come to an open forum and answer questions about the terminal groin, because many of us still have a lot of questions about it. And I think they were very involved in the EIS, so I would just like to say that that's the issue. I would like for us to go back or ask the commissioners or whoever is the representative to go back and ask for them to participate in a meeting where we can have question and answers about the terminal grant.
Anyone else want to speak to an agenda item?
Gina Martin, 1032 OBW. Last meeting, and this would be in our minutes, so I'll be addressing the minutes. We were told that there was going to be a demonstration tonight by someone from the Sheriff's Department, I believe a Mr. Highsmith, and I noticed that is not on our agenda. And we had, I think a lot of people have looked forward to learning a little bit more about decibels and so on and so forth. So I'd like to encourage you to try next time to maybe have that demonstration done for us. I believe it would be very enlightening. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to an agenda item? Yes, sir, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Rick Green, 119 Charlotte Street. I'm very disappointed in the board for the manner in which you failed to advertise this attorney position. I would have applied, my law firm, consisting of myself and associate, we would have applied. It wasn't until Friday when, on a totally unrelated matter, I made a call to town hall, and I needed to speak, or at least not necessarily speak to, but at least identify the interim attorney. So what I was told was it really wasn't doing good to speak to an interim attorney because the board on Tuesday was going to hire a permanent attorney. Now, that position was not advertised, am I correct? Am I not correct? Or was it advertised? Nobody wants to answer? All right. My understanding is that it was not advertised. We were waiting for that position to be advertised, and we would have applied. I'm not going to go through my qualifications. I'm not going to go through my associate's qualifications. But I would tell you that I've been a resident in Holden Beach for 24 years. We raised 4 children here. We know Holden Beach. And it seems to me that this board should have cast a wide net to determine how many attorneys out there were interested. You may have had a retired attorney coming down from Charlotte or Raleigh who had great municipal experience. And that would have benefited the citizens and residents of Holden Beach. But we'll never know because you did not make that information available to the public. So I'm not the loser here. The citizens and residents of Holden Beach have been shortchanged. Thank you. Well, I would say one other thing. Friday, when I learned that the position was not advertised, that the decision was going to be made Tuesday, or perhaps the decision was already been made, I sent an email to Commissioner Eisenhower, and I never received a response to that email. When I alerted her to the fact that it wasn't advertised and my law firm was interested, I never had the courtesy of a return email. So, there we are.
Anyone else want to speak to an item on the agenda? All right, we ready to move on? We're number 10 now.
We are, Mr. Mayor.
All right, John.
This agenda item addresses 2 related but separate topics under the Rules of Procedure for the Board of Commissioners, and I'll be introducing 2 separate resolutions. One relating to procedures for requests and invitations for speakers and spokespersons to address board meetings under Rule 5, and the other relating to procedures for conducting the public comment periods under Rule 28B. I presented both motions to the board in writing. Get one each.
Where are they?
Take one and pass the rest down. These are strictly procedural matters relating to the functioning of the Board of Commissioners. The written motions are self-explanatory, and each lays out in detail its basis in North Carolina law, the town's ordinances, and the board's own rules of procedures, so I'll be very brief. Both resolutions provide guidelines for carrying out the requirements of Rule 5 and 28B of the Rules of Procedure of the Board of Commissioners. These rules are required to be adopted by the board in December of each year by Section 30.19 of the town ordinances. We adopted the current rules of procedure last December. For many years, the board has adopted model rules written by the North Carolina School of Government for towns and cities throughout the state. The Board of Commissioners or town councils of virtually every small and medium-sized town in North Carolina has adopted these rules with minor variations related to the size and circumstances of the town and particular requirements of its charter and ordinances. That is exactly what our board has done for many years. These rules relate solely to how the Board of Commissioners conducts its business, and the model rules have been drafted to conform with the requirements of North Carolina municipal law. The rules of procedure leave it to the Board of Commissioners and the town clerk to work out the procedural mechanics of how the rules get implemented on a day-to-day basis. And that is what I'm doing in these two motions. I'm not proposing any amendment or change to either Rule 5 or 28B. I'm simply providing written guidelines to be followed by the board in implementing those rules as set forth in the model rules. The intent of both resolutions is to provide clarity and avoid confusion. The resolution relating to Rule 5. Rule 5 provides that anyone who wants to address the board on a particular topic at a meeting must make a request to the board, and the board must approve that request by majority vote. I want to be clear, Rule 5 relates to situations where the board is allowing a speaker to make a presentation on a specific subject matter. Under North Carolina law, this is completely within the discretion of the board. This is different from the public comment period that the law requires at least once a month during a regular meeting. At a specified public comment period, any member of the town's public can stand up and talk about almost anything they want. By way of example, if, say, a political lobbying firm wanted to make a pitch to the board to retain its services, it could send a letter requesting an opportunity to make a presentation to the board. That request would say what they wanted to talk about, identify their spokesperson, and ask for, say, 30 minutes. They might include other materials designed to encourage the board to accept their request. Under Rule 5, a member of the board could then ask that the request be put on the proposed agenda for the next meeting so the board could vote on whether or not to approve the request. In approving the request, the board would have the opportunity to impose time limits and other restrictions on the presentation, and most importantly, designate the date of the future meeting at which the lobbying firm would be invited to make its presentation. This all makes complete sense to me. Obviously, in my example, the board might very well decide we don't want to listen to a pitch from a lobbyist. We have better things to do. Or the board might decide if we're going to consider hiring a lobbyist, we should hire several firms to make competing presentations at the same meeting. In other words, this process leaves the board in control of the agendas for its meetings and allows the board to decide by majority vote whether or not it wants to hear a presentation. That is exactly what Rule 5 contemplates. However, this Rule 5 process can go off track if a member of the Board of Commissioners decides to invite lobbyists to speak at a particular board meeting, has that invitation placed on the agenda, and tells the lobbyist to show up at the meeting on the assumption the board will approve the request. Under Rule 5, the board must still approve the agenda and could send the lobbyist, who may have traveled some distance from Raleigh, to make his pitch packing. This is awkward for everyone involved. This resolution lays out a simple procedure to avoid this sort of situation. Basically, it says that if a member of the board wants to invite someone to address the board at the next meeting, at least 2 voting members must okay putting that presentation on the proposed agenda sent out before the meeting. Otherwise, the request or invitation will be put on the proposed agenda for a vote with the understanding that the presentation, if approved, will be at a later meeting as approved by the board. You now have that motion in front of you. Mr. Mayor, accordingly, I move the adoption of this motion in the written form presented.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Seeing as how we weren't given this before the board meeting, and we were just given it now, I would like to have ample time to review it and digest what it says, so that I have a total understanding of what it is saying, rather than trying to rush it through without being able to review it. So I would propose that we wait until the next meeting till we implement this, possibly implement it.
As I understand it, Mr. Fletcher, this does not change any ordinance of the town.
No,
This is a,
and it doesn't change Rule 5.
does not
Rule
change
5
Rule
establishes
5.
now you need to ask the executive secretary for the right to speak on a subject to the board. The Board of Commissioners has the right consistently to accept or to not accept a speaker who wants to come and speak before the board. This simply clarifies how that's done and to make sure it's as carefully done as possible and everybody gets a chance to make their offer. And nobody gets embarrassed getting sent away because the board didn't approve it.
So it's a process.
Just a process
update.
change.
Okay.
Can I ask why this wasn't put on as part of our agenda? I mean, part of getting the agenda out in time, I mean, yes, it has discussion of possible action of Rule 5, but this wasn't part of it. And part of getting the agenda out in time is to be able to review something and have a total understanding of it so you can vote on it. So my question is, why wasn't this part of our packet?
Didn't seem to be that difficult an issue for me. If you attended the last two meetings, I would think you would probably understand why it needed to be done.
So the process is somebody notifies you they want to speak, and then.
And if I'm not here, then the town clerk.
And then two of the commissioners have to approve them speaking.
If they do, it goes on the agenda, if any two. That's on the proposed agenda, but as tonight, the proposed agenda is just a proposed agenda. If the board decides not to have somebody make a speech here, they have the right to do that.
So this affords us the opportunity to decide in advance on the merits of someone who wants to speak to the board.
And having,
Correct.
and avoid having somebody show up with a big presentation, but it really doesn't fit, or it should be delayed, or it should be matched with somebody else who has an opposing view. It's just
Okay.
somebody, this is from outside wanting to make a pitch to the board
Without any notification.
without notification.
This provides notification.
That's all.
Right.
And it doesn't change anything about the fact that the board right now has the right to say yes or no on a proposed agenda item.
So it imposes a rule that someone wishing to speak to the board has to give us advance notice, and two members have to vote in favor of that. And that's the extent of what
That's all.
what this is enacting. Is that correct?
Yes, and it doesn't change anything else. The board still has the same right it always had under the statutes and under our procedures to approve or to disapprove something that's on the agenda.
How do you notify all the commissioners about their request? Or do all of them have the same equal opportunity to respond and say yes or no?
Yes. Any other discussion?
What's the pleasure of the board? Are you wanting to vote on it, and you want to discuss it more, or what's your pleasure?
Suggest we take the vote, Mr. Mayor.
You calling for the vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
All right. 4-1, Madam Clerk.
Resolution ready to Rule 28B, public comment period. Section 160A-811 of the North Carolina General Statutes requires that at one regular meeting each month, a town council or board of commissioners must set aside as part of that meeting a designated public comment period, at which members of the town's public are free to speak about pretty much whatever they want. Many towns, including Holden Beach, often split the comment periods into two parts, one for comments on items that are on the agenda for the meeting, and a second for everything else. That is permitted but not required as a means of organizing speakers. Both the North Carolina law requiring public comment periods and our Rule 28B implementing that law provide the board can, and I'm quoting, adopt reasonable regulations governing the conduct of its public comment periods, including but not limited to rules, A, fixing the maximum time allotted to each speaker, B, providing for the designation of spokespersons for groups of persons supporting or opposing the same positions. C, providing for the selection of delegates from groups of persons supporting or opposing the same positions. And D, providing for the maintenance of order and decorum in the conduct of the public comment period. However, the board shall not restrict speakers in this section based on subject matter, point of view, or the fact that the board may find the remarks offensive or insulting. The town councils and boards of most towns and cities in North Carolina have adopted these types of recommended guidelines. That includes most of our neighboring communities in Brunswick County. I've read dozens of them. Most are very similar to the idea behind all of them is that the purpose of the public comment period is defeated if a few people are allowed to dominate the public comment period, either by taking up the lion's share of the time or by making the comment process so rude, indecorous, or unpleasant that other people are reluctant to take part. My proposed guideline is very typical of the rules used successfully by other towns. In fact, it's almost identical to the guideline used at Oak Island. I want to emphasize these proposed guidelines are just guidelines. The board can waive or modify them at any time, and with experience, we may want to modify them. However, I firmly believe that we must make a start now at restoring civil discourse. According to Mr. Mayor, I move the adoption of this motion in the written form presented.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Discussion.
I have the same comment on this I had about the last one. Again, why wasn't this part of our packet? Why weren't we giving it to us in time to review it and see exactly what it had to say before we get given it here at this meeting?
Any more discussion? Hearing none, you ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
4-1, Madam Clerk. John, you still up?
Well, actually, we've deleted number 11 to give the town manager more time.
All
So
right,
we're
what
not-
number are we on?
Number 12, Chief, no, 12 got moved.
12 is moved, so we're on 13.
13.
Number 13?
We're on 13,
Is
Mr.
that you,
Mayor.
David? Who's 13?
Yeah, 12 is moved after 20.
Are we on number 13?
13's next.
David has 13.
Uh,
Please, that, oh, mutual agreement. Where is it?
No?
I thought we
Yeah,
moved,
you Mutual
we
assistance.
moved number 12 to after
Oh,
number
he's-
23.
He's doing 13?
You're doing
We're on
13, you're doing
13.
13, right?
Mutual aid.
Yeah. Yeah, for the mutual assistance agreement?
And I can vote out if I can second. If I'm given the opportunity.
No?
13.
13.
Okay.
No, that's,
No, we didn't.
we moved 12.
13.
We moved 12 to after 23. We're addressing, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
That's all right. I don't know much more than anybody else.
Good evening, everyone, and I'll see you after 23. The mutual aid agreement that's on the agenda pertains to Ocean Isle Beach. Currently, Holden Beach Police Department has mutual aid agreements with all the departments in their airspace, including the Sheriff's Department. Ocean Isle realistically is the only one that requires the approval of everyone, including the Board of Commissioners, to renew that mutual aid agreement. Everyone else that we have mutual aid agreements with, it's just between myself and the chief of that department or the sheriff of Brunswick County. Ocean Isle requires approval by the board. It's a housekeeping matter. It occurs annually, and that's all this is. It's just a housekeeping type thing. It's nothing brand new. Been happening ever since I've been here.
Okay, that answered the question.
Do we have to move to
Mr.
accept?
Lane, if I could ask,
Yes, sir.
I'm certainly in favor of any type of mutual aid that we entertain with our neighbors. let me see how I can phrase this. Are we getting a fair shake? In other words, does Ocean Isle contribute as much as we contribute to them in this mutual aid agreement?
Absolutely. And just an example, I've got 4 state certified instructors. My instructors go to these various other departments that we have mutual aid agreements with and conduct in-service training for them. Ocean Isle, as an example, now, excuse me, now has their own firing range, which is, I can't describe how much better that makes it for us, because we get to utilize their range, and we don't have to fight over the county range with the nuclear folks and everybody else in the county. We call the chief at Ocean Isle, we say, need to go qualify. He says, come on down. We go on down. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good
it's
example.
worthwhile.
Thanks. So we need a motion to.
I think I move that we approve this agreement. Is that?
We have a motion from John to approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We got a unanimous vote?
Yes.
All right. What's next?
14?
14, John?
That's you, right?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following what we're doing. Is that you, Mr. Hewitt?
Yes, sir. Staff has revised the proposed dangerous dog ordinance in accordance with the commissioner's direction last week. We've checked with Mr. Trask and Mr. Parsons from Warden Smith, and they have advised us that it is appropriate.
I have a question about this. It does seem to have appropriately codified the dangerous dog. And the only question I have is, in section 2B, it says it is unlawful to keep any dangerous dog for any purpose within the corporate limits of the town. So I certainly endorse that. My question is, on number 3, following that, it says, if no owner or harborer can be located or will claim the animal within 3 days after impoundment, the animal control officer may sell, adopt, or euthanize the animal at the discretion of the animal control officer. So I keyed in on selling the animal, and I said, okay, what could go wrong there? Could this ordinance allow someone to sell the dog to someone who resides in Olden Beach, and therefore they end up keeping the dog within the corporate limits? Or does B, first sentence, reign over all of these exceptions? Okay. That's all the questions I had.
Any more discussion? You ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Are we on number 17?
Yes.
John, I guess that's you.
There's no action?
Well,
You can pass on it.
who's,
Put 17.
So to take no action on it.
7? What do you want me to do with it?
What's that?
Just let it go.
Number 17?
Yeah.
We have already established an audit committee, correct?
Right. So
Correct. This was brought back as just based on the direction of the board at the last meeting to remove the chair position. It's up to you if you want to take direction on it, though. But by removing a Board of Commissioner member as the chair. That was just done based on the guidance at the last board meeting.
and if we take no action, it
So-
stays the way it was.
It was already adopted, so it would stay as.
It's adopted. We just take no action, Mr. Mayor.
All right, number 18, is that you, John?
It is. I move that we nominate a chair of the audit committee.
You move, you nominate,
I move that the board nominate, that we name a chair, a board member as chair of the audit committee. That's not even a big move, we just have to decide.
I second.
okay.
Are we gonna put a name with this?
Discussion.
All right, so you got to vote, I guess, since we have a motion on the floor, vote to decide if you're going to appoint. So,
Well, we,
is that where we are?
discussion.
Do we need that, or can we just vote on the chair?
You could have just voted.
We
on
can
it.
just vote. I'll withdraw that motion. Mr. Mayor, I withdraw that
Is the
motion,
second
And we just-
person withdraw the motion?
then we take it.
You
Yes.
withdraw your second?
Yes.
We take a
Okay,
vote.
so what we're trying to do is get you commissioners to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
What's your pleasure?
Nominate somebody.
Yeah, I nominate John to be the chair of that board.
Second?
Any more nominations?
So the commissioner's gonna chair the board?
Yep.
I thought we just said that the commissioner wasn't gonna chair the board.
No, we removed, we discussed that and removed that. So we discussed it last time, but as part of the discussion, I did some homework, and the Association of Local Government Auditors, two-page, how should the audit committee be structured, and the members, and I'll quote it, "We recommend that audit committees include both members of the legislative body and financial management experts from the community." So they're
Okay.
looking for a board member.
If I may refer to the attorney, are you able to follow what's being talked about here?
Mr. Mayor, I was just hired about 30 minutes ago. I didn't review, I wasn't asked to review anything in advance, so what's the question? I might be able to give you some guidance, but
The question, I believe, was, I can't remember who said it, something can a commissioner chair the audit committee? Since the commissioners,
I'm not familiar
Okay.
with your ordinances yet. I've just been hired. I'm happy to get
Well-
up to speed quickly and give the board.
Would you
an answer,
happen to
but-
know if Carolina Beach, what their practice is?
In terms of liaisons from the from the town council on town committees, they usually have a combination of public individuals and members from the public and staff and members from the commissioners or the council.
Are any commissioners chairs of committees of the board?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I mean, they have a number of committees.
the concern is that the committee is reviewing the actions of this board. So you want to chair, the person chair the review of the,
Actually, this committee is reviewing the financial records and the financial processes and internal controls of the town management.
yeah, that's right.
That's right, of the town management, not of the Board of Commissioners.
Well, indirectly, well, I'm not even going to get into that.
Are they reviewing the financial records, or are they reviewing the audit report? Because a
And-
lot of the
well-
financial records
Do you
are
have an-
probably confidential and can't be reviewed by members of the public.
Do you have an independent audit?
We have an
Yes.
audit
Yes.
firm,
Yes.
we're coordinating with the
With
firm.
LGC?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And they will
does
be-
that individual company make a report to the
Yes.
Board of Commissioners?
Yes.
It does.
So your concern is whether or not a member of the Board of Commissioners can be on a committee that works with the auditor?
Yeah,
Is that
No,
something-
not be on the committee, be
Not
the
on-
chair.
he's the chair.
The committee doesn't take any action, is that correct?
No.
So is there a need for a chair?
Well, they're typically the chair because they belong to this Board of Commissioners. We're establishing it. And it will work with the town management to review the financial internal controls, to work with that external auditor to make sure that auditor's doing, and to do other things that the town manager may request of them to do. In the role of chair from here, there'd be virtually no action other than be their conduit to the Board of Commissioners. They will run their own relationship with the town manager and with the external auditors to make sure that they can come back to the public and convince them there's been a good audit, it's clean, the internal controls are strong, and we should be happy with the way the town's being financially managed.
The answer to your question, Mr. Mayor, is that I don't know whether or not there is a restriction on a commissioner being a chair of an
All right.
audit committee for the town.
All right, thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
happy to get back to the town on that.
Well, all right.
Heather, I have a question of Heather. Heather, this document that was put out at the back of the room, is this the official copy of our, because it's not been signed, is this the official copy
No,
of what was approved?
that is the revised version that we were bringing back to the board to approve if you chose to.
Okay.
At the last meeting, you did approve the actual ordinance that allowed a board member to be chair. This
Okay.
would have changed that.
Okay, so
right now it
since we
is-
didn't
per
take any
our
action on
ordinance,
this,
is
this
allowed.
isn't what
That's
is
not
out
what
there?
is passed.
Okay. Thank you.
I will, for the public, we did a lot of research, and I've spent a lot of time with external auditors with public accounting. Municipal towns have begun, and the Association of Local Government Auditors has become much more active. We've also read a number of research reports on how this is working in municipalities. And what we found was, if there is no audit committee, the external auditor finds a lot of internal control weaknesses in a town. If there is one, just a basic audit committee, they find fewer. If they have one that has a close relationship with a senior person from town management, they have not yet found a town that has that relationship where they have any internal control weaknesses. And for the external auditor, that's a real plus. That means when they sign the document saying everything's okay, they can probably relax and say everything's okay. What we as a board hope is that we can bring to the public the confidence that everything that's going on in Town Hall is in accordance with the rules. The auditors have looked at it. We have 3 people, 4 people that will look at it as well. And they'll also be a resource to the town manager. If there is an internal control issue, they can work with the town manager to sort that out and get it fixed before the external auditor has to respond to it.
Any more discussion? You ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Number 19,
Correct.
Mr. Hewitt, I assume that's yours?
Yes, sir. This is the audit contract that the board requested be brought back to them this month for the firm of Thompson, Price, Scott, Adams and Company for the performance of the annual audit. The terms are $12,750 annually. Standard local government commission form.
I move that we approve the audit contract for fiscal year 2015-2016 between the town and Thompson, Price, Scott, Adams and Company, PA.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
A question, did they increase their fee this time? This is the same we paid them last period? Okay.
Same question.
Any more discussion, questions?
Call for a vote, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous. All right, number 20, Mr. Evans.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hear good morning?
Good morning.
The flood maps are in a complete state of limbo. I reported last month, and I was corrected by the mayor. He had a piece of paper that said that the information I was giving was bogus, and his piece of paper was correct. Turns out, when I went back to the folks that I got my information from and asked them about the document that he had, they verified that was as close as we were going to get, that they are predicting that the maps will not be available for the public or be through the review period and be approved. And this is both Randy Munt and John Gerber told me this from North Carolina Department of Public Safety. We're looking at January of 2017. Now, we have that's what they told me, and I've got an email. But at this time, we've had 6 appeals. We had 3 that came in the mid portion of the comment period, and we had 3 that came in, well, 1 that came in the last week, and 2 that came in with 2 days left in the time frame, which we actually FedExed overnight and got them in time. We reviewed it per the town allowed me per the FEMA guidelines to review and either support or not support the appeals. The town supported every single one of them. Some of them we added additional data to try to strengthen, and others were strong enough on their own basis. So once they get to any portion of that appeals, they will contact us and those folks at the same time that actually appealed. So they'll get a copy of whatever we get, and then we're supposed to share it with some of the folks that appeal. I believe you, didn't you have one? Yeah. So that's how the process works. If you have a property that you want to appeal after the final comment period's over, the best thing you can do is wait until the maps have been approved, and then you can apply for what's called a map revision, and you can do it individually on your lot. And in some cases, you can even get approval from the FEMA guidelines for field, but you have to wait until the final approval is. The other portion of what the board asked me to do was that sometime in the past, when we originally went to the meeting about 2 years ago, and they started telling us the maps were gonna be out then and then and then, I was given a phone call from FEMA who was encouraging us to do a process that I shared with the public, which turns out they're saying now you cannot do. So we cannot adopt the maps early until the final letter of determination comes out, and then we can adopt them. We can be prepared to adopt them, but we can't do it now until then. And so they're telling me that our earliest adoption period, unless something happens at the federal level, should be that date I gave you a few minutes ago. So that's my update.
I have a question. So you're saying, we talked about this pre-approval, and that's what you're just referring to, that we cannot do?
Yeah, they originally
Okay.
told me, they encouraged us to be prepared to maybe even adopt the maps before the letter of final determination, and then we would be prepared to move on. Because once you adopt the map, you also have to amend your ordinance for the date of the new maps. And so they're now saying, apparently FEMA has either frowned on that process or is saying that we can't do it, and they just gave us that information.
Have our 6 appeals, have had any effect on the approval date?
It shouldn't. They told me that it wouldn't have an effect on the approval date. I assume that they give themselves enough time. They had all of them. They reviewed them in Raleigh, and of course, we had to send them to Regional 4 office as well. And I assume they were reviewing them at the same time, and they were working, the Raleigh folks actually worked jointly with the FEMA. That's why they're there. And so the last conversation I had with them, they had them all. They were in the system, and they were working on it.
Great, thank you.
So the letter we expect to be issued sometime in January 2017.
Well, that's when we should get them. They're saying that they should be approved and through the process. By then.
Okay, so approving the process, well, do we know when we expect to get the letter? I'm looking at, I guess you have to be very specific on what you ask.
Well, I'm giving you all the information.
Yeah, I know
I
you
keep
are,
sending
but-
them email. I was on the phone with him with Randy Munt for 2 hours last time, just trying to convey what we wanted and waiting for an email to come back. I think that because it's on the federal level and the process is so massive, that all these maps are being changed, and we're in a 3-county area right now where these maps are being approved all at the same time. I just think it's such a massive undertaking until, it's hard for them to pinpoint any specific time. And it's hard for us to do as well. I think they were very ambitious when they started, and they gave out a lot of information that turned out to be wrong.
The obvious problem is, I've had somebody contact me directly that they're considering buying property here, but their current flood insurance is prohibitive to them. So, there's nothing we can tell them except, I guess I have one other question.
Well, you can tell them this, you can tell them that if it's on the preliminary maps and it's better, then there's a very, very good chance it's gonna remain better.
Yeah, well, I did tell them
It
that.
just won't be in effect until those days.
I did tell them that, but unfortunately, they're bound by the current map, and that's what's prohibited of them in purchasing the property. Well, we're in the process now, so the comment period is closed now, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So they'll
Right.
go through a review period. They usually say it takes about 6 months, and then they go through an approval period. And then we get a letter of final determination, and then we will be prepared. I will keep it updated with them. I'll know what exactly is gonna happen. And believe me, the first opportunity we get, we will adopt these maps. We will be prepared to
Yeah.
adopt these maps. The reason being is that, y'all know that it's always, anybody's been in this room, it's always been my goal to reduce the insurance for folks on the beach, and we've got 14 properties that's getting better.
Yeah.
We have, I know of at least 5 substantial improvement projects, which means they're gonna all but double the value of their homes that are waiting on these new maps. And we have a lot of folks that haven't been able to remodel their homes because they were actually below the BFE and would have to raise them because of that, that we're gonna be even seeing more than that when it hits the street, because they're gonna actually not only drop down, but they're gonna meet our new design flood elevation. And it's going to be a very good time for property improvement in Holden Beach when that time comes. It's gonna be a good day.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
thanks, Mr. Evans.
Terminal goals. That's
Number
Christie.
21.
Christie will do that. You're good, Christie.
Good evening, everyone. At the January board meeting, the Board of Commissioners inquired about the possibility of a public information session regarding the terminal groin when that topic was discussed. And in your memo, it stated that February 2nd, David and I did attend the meeting with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the North Carolina Division of Coastal Management in Wilmington to go over our comment matrix regarding our draft environmental impact statement. At that time, the town manager did ask the question of both the organizations in the room at the end of the meeting, and their answer was that they would not be able to do a public information session. They could only describe the process going forward, where we are going forward. So they felt like it would be frustrating to the public because it would not be question and answer. It would be, we're at this point, here's where we're going, and they would just continue to be able to repeat that and not do dialogue with the public, which was what they would probably come to hear. Now, on our website, and I know everybody's probably very diligent about visiting our website, but if you go all the way over to the links section at the top tab, and you go down, there's probably 12 links that starts with what is a terminal groin and goes through the first scoping meetings that the town had in 2012 with the project team, and then to where we are with the draft environmental impact statement now. So that does provide some feedback for folks that maybe are just moving here and want to inquire about the entire process that the town's been through. But as far as either one of these organizations coming, they have said that they do not think that's a good idea. We watched heads go like this.
I'm sorry, these, meaning Corps of Engineers and what's the other?
Corps of Engineers and the Division of Coastal Management, which
Okay.
is known as CAMA.
Okay.
Those are the two permitting agencies for the project.
But as was mentioned in the public comment, there's a third body that was part of this permitting process that was the consultants, the engineering consultants
Val Cordy,
that could be available.
David, you.
Well, what we're dealing with is a third-party contract through the Army Corps of Engineers. It's their contract. All we have is the privilege of paying the bill. So it is the Corps' process, and anything that we would do unchaperoned, I think, would put us at
Okay.
risk.
So the last time the Corps was here and the engineer firm was here, okay. So the Corps brought that engineering firm in. Okay.
I thought I heard there was another consultant, ATM.
ATM is the town's coastal engineer, and they're providing the hardcore engineering support for the environmental consultant. That is the third-party contract.
They're
That
also
the
the ones
Corps
that do
driving.
our transects, our beach management report.
Right, right. Well, thank you for giving us this update. Unfortunately, it wasn't helpful. I mean, I understand the Corps of Engineers, that isn't their job to answer questions, but the questions remain, at least they do to me. And I guess this consultant ATM, if they did work for Holden Beach, some of the key questions I have are around the specific, nature of Holden Beach as it applies to terminal groins, because from the reading I've done, it's highly variable, the impact a terminal groin has based on a lot of the specific natures of, the beaches involved. For example, I've read where dredging has a significant impact on the behavior of the beach migration, which is what we have here. But then if you compare it to a place that doesn't have dredging, then from what I'm reading, the studies are invalid, or at best have a high degree of error. So I understand that with the Corps of Engineers isn't of any help, but I am in need of answers before I could. I supported continue with the permit. That's a different subject altogether in my view. You can't even get to the question unless we get through all the permits. But at some point, we're going to be asked to approve this, and frankly, I don't have enough information to even to offer an affirmative vote. Frankly, right now, I'm leaning toward, I won't even say that. I've already heard people think I'm against the terminal groin, and I'm not, but we still have questions. So, Mr. Hewitt, I hate to put you on the spot, but does the staff have any recommendations for the board to where we can hear from
What I'd recommend.
a balanced view of the terminal groin?
What I would recommend is to allow the formal EIS process to go forward as it should under the Corps' guidelines. After the record of decision comes out with a permit, when the board or the town will be faced with a funding decision, that would be the time when you could ask those types of questions in a Q&A session, because it's over then from a permit standpoint.
Okay, I understand that, but, okay, when we reach that point, are we still going to be scratching our heads as to who is available to provide us that question and answer period?
The contract with the Corps of Engineers will be over then, and you're not constrained by that process. You can bring in who you want to.
Okay.
So do we know who we could bring in?
You're going to bring in our coastal consultant, our coastal engineer, the guy that's done the work for the environmental impact study. What we're talking about is adherence inside the protocol of the environmental impact study process. That's where we have to stay.
And that's within the permitting process that we
Yes.
all agree that we want to go forward with. We're
That's-
all in agreement with that. So that's a good,
That would be my
good answer.
recommendation.
Christie, the website already has a lot of good research. You've already collected a number of studies and reports. Will you continue to look for those for later studies that show what happened in Florida or what happened in New Jersey or whatever, so that the public gets a bigger view of all sides of this issue, where it worked some places, where it didn't?
Yeah, we can do that. I think right now there's a study on Fort Macon. That's the last link on there. That was on the last link there. So there is one case study, but we can do that.
But there's one study that has like 5 or 6 different sites, and it goes through, it's pretty extensive, but that's informative. And I think the more information we can get on what's happened, and I have a funny feeling that our mayor knows a lot more than any of these guys are talking about in their thing, and we could probably use that information.
And I think it's important that we get the information, but we also, the public.
The public gets the same information.
Can join that journey of that, understanding what's happening and how much it's going to cost and making, that decision. So I think that's just as important.
Mr. Hewitt, when do we expect, or do you know when the EIS will be completed?
End of the year is the feedback that we got the other day. As a matter of fact, we kind of got a surprise during the course of that meeting. Heretofore, we had been under the understanding and led to believe that the federal permit and the state permit were going to track in parallel. And based on the experience with Ball Head Island and Figure 8 Island, CAMA has revised their position on process, and now they will run sequentially instead of in tandem or in parallel. So the CAMA permitting process will take place after the Corps' process takes place, the NEPA process. It will be sequential.
And any idea on how long that's going to take?
We pressed pretty hard on pinning them down, and the best we could get was about 2 months after the record of decision came out on from the feds.
Thank you.
And it's after the record of decision from the Corps
Right.
that we can get the people here to give the briefing. We don't have to wait for CAMA, correct?
CAMA follows the SEPA, which is the state environmental permitting process, and that's the same type of protocol. We do have a CAMA experienced attorney down on the end, and she hopefully vouch for that process. Permitting's tough, y'all.
Thanks, Christie.
Are we ready to move on, or is there something else?
We move on, Mr. Mayor?
We're good. Sir?
Move on to the big issue.
We are.
22.
22, Central Reach. Mr. Hewitt?
Speaking of permits.
Sir, I believe there's a memo in the back. What I'm seeking is board direction and approval to move forward with the actions necessary for the construction of the Central Reach project. We actually have received our revision on our CAMA permit. What's driving this is that normally your permits are issued in increments of 5 years. This permit was only extended until December of 2017, which is runs coincidental with the expiration date on the federal project. What that means is that with the dredge windows being November to April, November of 17 until December of 17 is not enough time to do a project. So what that would necessitate is that the Central Reach project be expedited and moved up 9 months from now, to begin 9 months from now, in November of 16 through April of 17. What that really means is that we have to get really busy and aggressive with our program in order to pull off a dredge project. Now, the question becomes, can we get an extension on the federal and the state permit instead of truncating at December of 17? Maybe, probably, but that's not guaranteed, and it is not guaranteed that there will be other conditions added on to the permit. What I would ask the board is to consider, Heather, can you put that calendar up there? What I'm talking about in moving forward with a expedited calendar. The two things on there that are important is yesterday, which is when we would need to move into developing the final designs for the project. And November of 16 is when we begin construction. All of those other items in between there each have about 10 variables that go along with them. And it's a huge undertaking in order to get there from today. Where I think that we're going to end up with is a USDA loan underwritten by revenue bonds secured with our occupancy tax. That's where I think that we're going to end up at. But what we need to do is I need to bring in a bond counsel, and in about 2 weeks, come back to the board with the financial consultant in order to lay out the specifics of the project and how we're going to get there from here. We're talking loosely $15 million. I've used that number over and over and over again, and that is very loose and is predicated on 1 million yards at $15 a yard. And I've also said $15 million plus or minus 5. So it's dredging is a highly variable enterprise, but we just might be in a circumstance that is favorable to the town due to the fact that oil is at an all-time low. I mean, we're a long way from the $4 a gallon that where we were in 2009 for gas, and the dredge capital used for all the sandy repair work, most of that's been done, so dredge plant may be available more so in the fall than it has been the last couple, 3 years. Additionally, we have some other data points that are going to come to bear on your decision. Dare County had a bid opening on a very similar project on the 4th of February. I have those results now, but I didn't read them yet. So we will have that information for consumption. So what I'm asking the board to do is allow me the flexibility to put together a decision package in approximately 2 weeks to be delivered to the board in approximately 2 weeks at a called special meeting in a workshop format. In order to set that date, time certain, I'll need to coordinate the calendars along with our financial advisors also. I can put this together in that time frame, but I need some direction on if you want to pursue this, we've got to get in gear, and these are the elements that we're going to be aiming for in order to make the project happen in that time frame.
David, has the public here been presented with a workshop that showed them what this entails and why it's necessary?
No, that'll be only over the course of our beach management plan and update, and through the course of us acquiring the permits for the Central Reach project. And that has been several years and many iterations removed over time. So it is a good time to work that type of information into this forthcoming workshop.
Do you need our approval to establish this workshop? Is that what you're looking for tonight?
Yes, I do. I've taken the liberty of scheduling a meeting in Raleigh tomorrow with our financial consultant, and we'll be proceeding that way to make a workshop in 2 weeks unless you tell me not to go.
So what,
So
I vote you go.
I would ask you, I would ask you by consensus, if I may, to give me a go or no go on developing the workshop that will answer the questions related to the calendar that are presented for you, with the goal of constructing a project in November. You can pull back from that, but I would be looking at the workshop in a couple of weeks to be a tipping point on making a decision and at that workshop. But I've got to get moving now in order to make that workshop in 2 weeks.
Do we need a motion for that?
What's your pleasure?
Okay, I move we support the town manager attending the meeting in Raleigh tomorrow and scheduling a follow-up workshop to discuss the pertinent elements of the Central Reach project.
I second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right.
And what I would do is I would ask Heather to, let me get through this meeting tomorrow and see what the consultants' calendars are, and we'll close with Heather to see what y'all's calendars are in order to get together a date and time search for a called special meeting workshop.
Mr. Hewitt, I see the final design specs, that's what you're referring to was due yesterday. Is that done?
Well, that's the start on it.
Oh, to start on?
That's the start on it.
Okay.
It'll take about 60 days to get that done.
Okay.
And those are organizationally soft. We've got some flexibility in there. So I pointed that out to Fran, and he's okay with us. He'll be here in a couple of weeks to talk about it with us.
Take him to the next item? It's
If
his,
you're through with it, thank you, Mr. Hewitt.
well, he's, got his-
Town manager.
he's up next.
All right.
He has the
We're through with
next
that one,
item as
go to the
well.
next one.
Just wanted to give everyone a brief update on seems like it's been a while since I've been in front of you and had an opportunity to give you a status update. Have some brief items to share with you. First of all, the Coastal Resources Commission meeting last week, there were several issues and action items that came out of that. I wasn't able to attend. We've made a concerted effort over the last 18 months to engage with the Coastal Resources Commission, and we weren't in attendance, but I wanted to point out a few specific things that came out of that meeting. And one, the development line was approved. That is a new rule that is intended to augment or replace the static vegetation line. It will be an important part of our Central Reach project process and one of the decisions that will be involved in that. Tim Evans is the smartest guy in the room, and maybe the state on that. I don't intend to go into it tonight, but we were up close and personal with the chairman of the Coastal Resources Commission. This was his idea. It's a good alternative to a static vegetation line, and we will have to consider it as part of our Central Reach project development. Sandbag relief, that's good news. In a nutshell, there's some relief been given for the way that the requirements on maintaining sandbags and also when you can use sandbags. For example, it's my understanding that now if there's a location with sandbags, the adjacent property owners, tell me if I miss any of this stuff, because you're the camera, that the adjacent property owners, even though they're not imminently threatened, may qualify to have sandbags put in. So that has possible implications for here. And the purple gorilla in the room, of course, is that the Coastal Resources Commission approved the study that will now go forth to the General Assembly that establishes an approved sea level rise rate for our area down here. It's 4 to 9 inches over 30 years. Now, how will that impact here and play out? I don't know, but it's another data point that will affect or has a potential to become integrated in how we live down here at the coast. I do want to brag one more time on Mr. Evans. Evidently, the methodology that we used or the town adopted last year on measuring height here at Holden Beach caught somebody's attention at the General Assembly because the honorables opted to create a study commission made up of the Department of Public Safety, Department of Insurance, and Building Code Council that directed those agencies to develop or perform a study that's directed at using our methodology to see how it might apply toward the rest of the state, if it could be applicable to the rest of the state. And basically that's using design flood elevation, base flood elevation, with the intent, of course, bringing all of those things back to an insurance basis. The Deputy Attorney General is pulling that together for the state agencies and was a by name request to me to get Mr. Evans to help them bring a product back to the General Assembly that's due the 1st of March. And it's my understanding that some of the slides that y'all saw here last year are the exact same ones that are going to be shown to the General Assembly. Our hazard mitigation plan, the annex has been approved. We tacked on to the counties, and we're awaiting formal notice. However long that'll take to get back to us, but then it's tied to insurance. We're good to go on that. We're just waiting for formal notice there. Ava Kane, we've finally convinced her to come to work full-time as the inspection secretary. Some of you may have had interaction with her over the last 6 months or so, and she will be in the inspections full-time. Recently, we've completed the canal's condition surveys, and that's going to be the basis for updating our canal dredging master plan. Part of that canal dredging master plan, of course, brought to bear our whole effort on canal dredging. One of the offshoots from that effort, of course, was a repair of bulkheads and docks. We are seeing a whole, excuse me.
Hang on. No?
We are seeing a whole bunch of buildings, building permits and construction repairs in the canals. That's primarily from a boat trip that Mr. Evans took earlier in January, where all of the canal docks, bulkheads were surveyed. With all the rain this season, the last 4 to 5 months, if there were any weaknesses in bulkheads, they've certainly come to light, and fixing those bulkheads certainly makes the canals, the dredging efforts in there hold up longer. back to the canal survey. They look pretty good, so we'll be working with the canal reps on our inputs into the budget process on what the assessments may be for the coming year. Sorry. Your storm re-entry decals, you should have received those in the mail here. Don't lose them. Replacements are $10 a piece, right? The Jordan Boulevard lift station. The Jordan Boulevard lift station, the odor controls, the parts and pieces are in place up there. I've just got to do some electrical work to get them operational. I believe that the Easter crowd is going to provide our first full-up field test, with the Memorial Day concert being the real smell test. We hope we pass that. More sewer issues. The rain has caused, or we believe that the rain has caused issues for the last 6 months. On the vacuum sewer, primarily
David, this one. You need all.
You got one for me?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We've just had an awful time. Awful might be stretching reality, but we've had numerous occasions where our vacuum sewer has just had a hard time keeping up. And it's not in the summertime. I mean, we have some issues in the summertime. And through Chris's hard work and Public Works, what we have discovered, we've actually inspected 70% of the 1,300 valve pits and found that the bottoms are caving in from the bottom. Got about 40 of them. And what we believe it is, it's actually a design defect. And we've worked with the company to garner replacements from them. But the water table being so high pushes from the bottom. Anyway, we've received replacements for those. We're working on getting as many installations as we can done, because once Easter comes, our ability to replace those vacuum pits is going to be compromised, just because there's so many people here. It's hard to replace a sewer valve pit when there's 10 people in the house. Starting to see new construction catching up with the number of stub outs that we had initially installed. That's not necessarily a bad sign. It's a sign of growth, and it's going to be a requirement to keep more parts and pieces on the shelf. It may increase our cycle time on putting valve pits in on new construction. One more time, and I'm going to quit here. The bridge beautification project, that looks like, even with the new program manager, it's on schedule for a June 17th completion date, and should be in construction beginning of April. Bring you an update on the Bridgeview Park. Heather, can you give me the couple pictures there? The structural work on the modular restroom has been accomplished. Where we are is awaiting the fixtures and the interior finish, looking like that'll be delivered on site next. Here's what it looks like from the other side. Our stormwater infrastructure for the multipurpose court has been installed. If you go out there and look at it right now, you won't see anything, but this is what is in the ground out there. Next slide. Just to give you an idea, this is a field of basically manifold connected drain pipes in the shape of an L that goes around the perimeter of the multi-purpose court. In order to put a hard surface down adjacent to shellfish waters, you've got to retain the water on site. And that is the consequence of playing next to the water. You've got to do it. No way around it. Next slide. This is just where elbows. The dock, the contractor's notice to proceed has been issued. The CAMA contractor pre-construction meeting is scheduled for Thursday if the weather holds, and completion date is scheduled for the first week in May. The multi-purpose court to go along with the stormwater improvements there. We're just waiting on it for weather to warm up, but hopefully have the by Memorial Day completion. The goal being to have the multi-purpose court, the bathrooms, the dock, and sidewalks in by Memorial Day so that those park elements can be enjoyed through the summer. Our Partis grant that has the other components for the picnic shelter, the splash pad, the shade structures, and the kayak launches that are appendages to the big dock. We'll work the minor components of those in as we can, but do not believe that we want to have construction on the picnic shelter and the splash pad going on during the summer months. That should be an issue for next year. What I would hope we were able to do is to get the first phase effectively in the ground and out there for folks to enjoy during the summer, and we'll take care of the picnic shelter and the splash pad during the upcoming winter season. One of the things that I noticed when we were putting the stormwater infrastructure in, had some kids playing on the playground, not necessarily bad, but it bothered me. And, got big pieces of equipment out there and sharp things, heavy things. And, one little guy, he was actually having more fun on the pile of dirt out there than he was on the playground. So just be advised that I may have to close the park down there, sections of it off as these things come together on an intermittent basis. I'll try to limit that because, that when you come over the bridge, that's the first thing you see, and we want to take advantage of that to the largest degree that we can. In closing, Earth Day, the 22nd of April, based on feedback for services that we've had from the public, we're going to have a shred event here at Town Hall from 9 to 12 on Earth Day. That's right after tax time, so all those secret documents that you don't want shared with the identity thieves, you can bring them up here, and we'll have a shred truck to take care of it all. Okay.
That was 9 to 12 on what date?
22nd of April, Earth Day. And I'm sure that Christy's going to have some more information out on that, possibly some other activities also.
Mr. Hugh, I have a quick question. Are there any plans to do any additional mosquito spray control?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. With all the rain, there's a lot of water standing. I live on a hill that's 32 feet above sea level. The land's so poor and so sandy, it won't grow a pine tree on it. It's the first time since 1967 that I've ever seen water standing in my front yard. We are bound to have mosquitoes in the not too distant future when it warms up a bit. I usually don't ask people to complain, but because of the EPA protocol on how we go about spraying, we have to have complaints registered in order to justify mosquito counts. So please, we will be as proactive as we can, but it has to be predicated on complaints from y'all. So please be liberal. Please be liberal in it. We're going to make sure that we have enough bug juice to spray out there of the biscuits that go in the standing water. So we'll be ready for y'all's complaint to help us out if you can.
Well, with that new virus in the
Zika
news,
virus,
and
yes,
our visitors might want to understand that we are aggressively attacking this mosquito issue.
What we haven't done that we will be doing, we're fortunate that I believe we have a resident that is actually on the Brunswick County Board of Health, and we'll make sure that we engage with the Board of Health and Operation Services there in order to make sure if there are any new developments, if there are any changes to that protocol. Because I could see, the Zika virus is on national news, and we want to stay ahead of that. I can see there being some type of relaxing of the rules, and we'll make sure that we're in on that
Great.
from the
Thanks.
floor.
Thank you.
If someone wants to complain, how and where do they do that?
The best place to call is front desk at Town Hall, 6488. That is the right number.
Anything else, Mr. Good? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Get the police report now, Mr. Mayor.
Are you still with us, number 23?
Right here, sir.
Number 12, I guess you are actually.
Used to be. Now
You got a good number, whatever it is.
Now 23A.
Whatever it is, start.
23A. Good evening again, everyone. I will be very, very brief. The first ration break-ins we had, we were able to clear up. Those folk are no longer with us. We had about a 2-week reprieve, and then in the last 2 weeks, we've had one a week. Don't think they're related. Don't think one was actually a break-in because somebody went in with a key. But they still took 2 flat screen TVs. So that's where we're at with that. It's not like it was, and that's a good thing. And the more people that start coming, the better that'll get, and we'll be back in the summertime routine. The other thing is that the department's going to start its annual state required in-service training on the 22nd. So hopefully, within a month or so, we will be in compliance with the state for yet again another year. That's really all I have to report. Be glad to answer any questions. Hearing none.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, public comments?
Public comments, sir.
Now is an opportunity for anybody in the room who wants to come and speak in the microphone, give us your name and where you're from, and we have a winner.
Evening. Craig Greif, 1327, and I drove down on Monday morning I was really excited because I don't know what DV level is, and I was really excited about seeing a demonstration and really learning what that entails. And I learned yesterday that wasn't going to happen because I was already here. So I downloaded the app, which anyone could do on their cell phone. And I was very shocked that last night on my back deck, me alone, not talking, doing nothing, it was 90 dBs. Tonight, before I came here, it was 75. So if anyone leaving this room could down where they're at, go to the ocean on anyone's back deck, don't trespass, but it's gonna be 75. Just in the back of the room, the commissioners talking tonight was 70. If no one was talking and rustling papers, that was 55. So I would just really encourage the commissioners and the attorney to really ask themselves what's reasonable for a family vacation rental island. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, last call. Thank you very much. Mr. Wood, have you finished?
You got anything else?
I'm done.
All right, I guess that's me then, right? There've been some changes in the, agenda here, and I guess I just want to inquire about the lines on their booklet that whenever you reference, when somebody talks on page X, Y, Z, you can quickly see what line they're talking. Remember what I'm talking about? It's gone. Is there a reason for that?
I can put it back in. I put it on the minutes because that's what it was primarily used for, so I just put it on the actual minute pages instead of making them back, but I can put it on there. On the left of the minutes, it actually shows lines going through whatever, so you can reference back to the minutes. But I have no problem adding it back on.
Okay. I've been a chairman of a lot of activities through the years, still chairman of several pretty good-sized organizations. I probably have done the worst job tonight in running a meeting in my lifetime. And I apologize for that. And I'm gonna ask my commissioners, somebody's got to tell me what's going on. I mean, I can't, these items, I don't know who to call on to talk. And I haven't had any indication other than these lines of what we're doing. So tonight, I hope you've noticed, I just called on John, which I will continue to do if that's your pleasure, because only he knows where the conversation's going. And I don't mean this in a mean way. I mean, I just don't know what the heck's going on.
We will in the future put whoever sponsored that item on, so you know who it is to call on.
And, I mean, I just apologize. I mean, and I hope that before we all sit down up here, that we'll have everybody on the same page. Apparently, everybody was on it except me tonight about all these changes in the agenda. I've never ever seen this many changes on the agenda, especially one this much in advance. The only communication I had was that we needed to take the noise ordinance stuff off. And I finally caved in and said, okay, we won't put it on there. Not that I could have stopped it anyway, but I guess I'm just asking for somebody to help me. If you want me to run the meeting, somebody's got to tell me what the heck's going on. I mean, I just can't do it without some guidance. And I'm not slapping you, John. I know this is the first meeting we've had with this type of agenda arrangement. But if there's not some changes made, I'm just gonna call on you
We'll change it.
to reference whatever you want to do. The second thing is, this noise ordinance thing, I have about run my nerves out with the emails and the phone calls. The last 30 minutes before I came to this meeting tonight was on the phone about the noise ordinance. And I'm gonna be very happy to share your phone numbers with some of these people who are calling me and taking 45 minutes and an hour to chew me out about this noise ordinance. The Hall family, right over here, that worked with the chapel to let the chapel take ownership of their land to make a parking lot over here. Mr. Hall's grandson's gonna get married here. Their family's in uproar because they don't know how that's gonna impact their wedding. Mr. Hewitt and I got some others about their wedding plans and so forth. I don't know what to tell these people. I really don't know what to tell these people. You guys need to hear some of the stuff I'm hearing. And I'm gonna share it with you, and I don't want you to be mad at me whenever I say, here's the commissioner's phone numbers, talk to them, because I don't have a vote. But I don't have 5 and 10 hours a week to listen to this stuff when I don't have any answers. I know it's my job, but I think I'm carrying more of the load. I think I'm the target that everybody's calling. Are you guys getting any phone calls?
Yes.
Have you got like 20 in the last week?
No.
Oh. Well, okay. I'm frustrated tonight, and I'm apologizing for the way the meeting went tonight. And I hope that we can work together and make things run more smoothly. It's just not much of a reason for me to be here, to tell you the truth. This is the way we're gonna move. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, your turn.
We had the opportunity to attend the 2-day training of essentials, on essentials of municipal government. It was very informative training. I was encouraged because a lot of the activities that we have undertaken are supported by what we were trained upon. There were some key learnings I took from that I'll share with you. Understanding that this board only sits for 2 years unless reelected, my sensitivity to the impact that can have on our town manager was definitely increased. So that was lesson number one, that we have an obligation to the town to continue to support a strategic direction, which is really what we should be focused on. I know we have enacted some things that are more reactive, and I look forward to having agenda items that have none of those on it. And in light of what we had learned, I also had a chance to benchmark with a lot of other municipalities. There were probably over 150 participants there. So I did take the opportunity to inquire, to benchmark some of them regarding some of the issues we've discussed tonight. And I was able to get a bunch of business cards so we can continue that dialogue, because I think that's important. Having sat in these meetings, for me, has been personally challenging. I did not meet my own expectations for being prepared and to be able to sufficiently answer questions. So I consider that a significant delta that I'm working on, and I continue to work on. One of the items I did pick up from the training was that many municipalities have enacted a code of ethics. You can call them code of ethics, code of behavior, code of conduct. From my career, I was accustomed to operating under similar principles. We call them principles of professionalism. And I have already researched a few of those, and I know some of my colleagues have. But I see the need to first of all, I think this board needs to have a retreat. And of course, that will have to be in a public meeting. But I think a retreat, a workshop of some type is in order, so we can discuss how we, basically what our expectations are of each other, on how we conduct ourselves and what we expect of each other. I'm accustomed to that from my previous career. So I will be promoting, scheduling some type of retreat to where we can move forward with the goal of being effective and efficient, but also respectful of each other and of the public as well. And I will share with you, I'll just state it here, that to me, respect is a two-way street, and I expect people to hold me accountable for functioning out of respect for each other, but I also expect the people that I'm interacting with to do the same. I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just stating transparently that in order for a meeting of this type to be conducted in a professional manner requires the equal participation of everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, Ashley. It was a worthwhile 2 days. It was very worthwhile because we did attend with David, that we could understand how we could work, as you said, an efficient way with the town manager for, again, strategic initiatives. He's responsible for the day-to-day activity. I'm also happy we have a new town attorney that now we can, that's why I deferred a couple items, so the town attorney will have the opportunity to look at things that we are presented in front of us, so we aren't doing anything on the fly, so can have some thoughtful input from the town attorney, and we can react based on that.
Mayor?
I'd like to just say thank you again for coming tonight and staying so late once again with us. But one of the main things that I took away from the training that we had is that many towns around us have these retreats. And they do it so that they can take a look at their strategic plan. They can come up with goals for the town so that a lot of the things that we already have, we can take a look at to see how they fit in with our goals. And I think if this board can meet together and establish goals, we will much better be able to find common ground where we can, from this point forward, work together. I think we all came into this and ran for this office and intended to work for this town for the betterment of as many people as we possibly can. You know, there's a learning curve. There's a definite learning curve. And there is a degree of humbleness that I think you have to have while you're going through that process. But I, for one, am very willing to think about having a retreat so that we can get together and find that common ground and move forward. Thank you.
John?
I hope that some of the changes we've made tonight will make the future meetings a little bit more manageable and will allow the board more time to do its work and less distractions thrown into the pitch. We came onto the board with serious issues in the town, not issues as much as challenges coming. We have a terminal groin question that is millions and millions of dollars involved. We got a central reach project. We've got a sewer system. We had people wanting to build huge houses and have massive parties and keep the neighbors awake at night because they wanted to have a party. And I don't know, I rented my house here for 4 years, and if I'm in some of these houses, I'm paying $10,000 a week to enjoy that party. And almost everybody I interview enjoys the quietness of the beach, the calmness, the family environment. They don't look forward to listening to 12-inch, 14-inch speakers blasting from underneath the house next door till 3 o'clock in the morning so they can't sleep. So we had major issues, and hopefully we're in a position now, manage the board, and I'll work with the mayor to make sure that we do this smoothly, that we can get these issues faced. One of them has always been that we've got an external auditor that comes in and does an audit and confirms that we're okay with our financial control systems. I've had 3 people who, and actually it turns out to be the people who were on the audit committee before, have volunteered that they will serve again, and that's Ron Skubik, Mark Fleschauer, and Ben Burnside. I met with the town manager on each of these and confirmed that he'll be happy to work with them. So they will pick one of their leaders, one of their person as the leader of that group, and they will work with the town manager, and hopefully the town manager has Mandy, who will become the liaison with that committee, and that we can walk away easily knowing that everything's fine in town hall financially, no funny things are going on, and our external auditors are happy, they're doing their audit. So hopefully we can become more effective as we go forward. I share the frustration. The last meeting, we may be late tonight, but we didn't get started till this time last time. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. So, but thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for staying this late. And thank you for being a little bit patient with us till we get our feet on the ground. But we did go to the training, and I think it was really nice to be with the town manager. We learned about as much from the town manager as we did from the faculty there about how things go in the town.
Kaiser.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and staying so late. It's always nice to have an interested crowd. I want to say that I voted against two things tonight, that if I possibly would have had the information beforehand and had time to read it and make sure that everything in it was correct, that I would have very possibly voted for them. But over the last 2 months, 3 months, we've had a lot of things that have been rushed through. We've gotten at the last minute and haven't had time to adequately review them and look at them and put the proper thought in them. And this was just another example where we did it again. And we keep doing it every meeting, where at the last second, something gets shoved in front of your face and say, here, approve it. And that's one of the things as a board we need to stop doing. We need to have them in front of us beforehand so we can put the proper thought into them. That's all I have to say.
All right. You guys ready to call it evening?
Yes, sir.
So, who's got a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.